What is the big mystery with watercolor blooms? How do you make them? How do you avoid them? Hi, I'm Margaret with Sacramento Art Classes, and I have a video today to teach you all about blooms. And if you stick around until the end, I'll also let you know about a free resource that I have which will help you control water in your watercolor paintings, and a cool supply list with clickable links that I made which have my favorite things from the past 25 years of paintings. So let's get started. Hi, I made this example for you with 4 different blooms on here, and I used different colors so that you could see kind of the effects that you might get, whether it's a darker or a lighter color. A watercolor bloom is this right here. It's kind of like almost like a piece of cauliflower that appeared right there in my paint, and there's a more subtle one right here. Here's a bigger one here. Then you have this guy here. And you can not really see this one as easily because they don't show up as well with lighter colors, but really it's right here. Besides being called a watercolor bloom, I've heard these marks being called cauliflowers or backruns. And what happens, how these happen is you've got a beautiful wash of paint that's still wet or damp, and then you just can't resist the urge to take your brush and add a little more paint somewhere. Maybe you want it darker, or maybe you feel like you had a mistake, and so you come on in with this nice juicy brush filled with paint and you touch it down on there, and the paint on your brush is wetter or juicier than the paint that's already starting to dry here on your paper. Okay, so anytime, whether it's just plain old water on this brush or if it is paint on the brush, if it's wetter than the existing paint here, that'll happen. And the most often time these form on paint that is just starting to lose its shine. It's got maybe a little shine left, or from that range all the way down to kind of still pretty damp, where maybe if you touched it with your finger you'd get some paint on your hand. Once it's more dry, you don't really have to worry about these as much. But now that you know what they are, let's figure out how to make them so that you can figure out how to not make them. So I'm going to move this up a little bit and give you some fresh clean white paper to look at, and I'm just using this brush. This is a 12 round. You can use any size brush. Let's make sure this is nice and straight for you. And you can use any kind of color. It doesn't matter whether you just put on paint or if you wet the paper first and then put on your paint, you can still get a bloom. So let's try some colors that we didn't use yet up above, just for fun. This color from Daniel Smith is called Diopside Green. It's one of my favorite greens, and I'm gonna just put it on dry paper. It's about the consistency of coffee, so it's got a little body to it. It's not real wimpy, and we're gonna let it sit. We're gonna just leave it there as it starts to dry back, and we'll do another color just for kicks. How about this time we have water first? So I'm just wetting the paper. This one here is gonna take longer to dry since I'm pre-wetting the paper, but that's okay. And here we go. We'll have a little bit of Carbazole Violet. Also a Daniel Smith color. If you don't know by now, I'm a fan of Daniel Smith paints. And then the third one that I'll do, we'll do that one on dry paper too. And let's use quinacridone red. It's a nice vibrant red. Again, about the consistency of coffee. Okay, and so just to give these a little bit more time to dry, I'll do a 4th one for you. What color do we want? How about a lighter green? This is Permanent Green Light. We'll put that right here on dry paper. So far the purple is the only one that I did on wet paper, and you can see how wet it is because there's kind of a puddle forming right there in the middle of that sample. And that just lets me know that it's really pretty wet. Okay, so now I'm gonna tip this just a little bit to see if I can catch the shine for you. I have a ring light above me, which is going to let you see how shiny these still are. Really pretty shiny and wet. The only one that has a big puddle or a lake is this guy, again because it had more water to start with. So now let's say I just took my brush out of the water and it's pretty soaked, and I'm going to get some more of this green, right? So my brush is really juicy and really loaded with new paint. And let's say I come on over here and I just want to touch this up. I just can't resist, and I got to touch that up for some kind of reason. So I'm going to deposit a little bit more paint right there. This is what it looks like without the reflection. Okay, and I'm going to save that purple for last. Let's do it down here with the quinacridone red. Again, the brush and the paint on the brush is wetter than what's on the paper. So there's a little bit more of that. And how about this time, instead of adding paint, what if I dripped water on? Let's try it. Same brush, just a little touch of water, and you can splash it on or you can touch it. And when you do a water droplet, you can almost already see the cauliflower or the bloom or the back run starting to happen. Okay, just for fun too, let's have a little spot of water up here in this guy. So here was paint and here's water. We'll see how that happens. And then last but not least, let's not forget that purple guy. And since this is still a puddle and pretty wet, I'm going to do this out here on the edge so my brush is depositing more paint. And really, I have to let this sit and dry, because right now nothing's really going to happen unless we just leave the camera running and then you're watching paint dry forever. So I'm going to turn the camera off and come back to you in a few minutes once this is dried, and we'll check it out. So remember what this looks like. Again, here's what it looks like when there's no reflection on there, just so you can get a good true shot of it. Okay, and now I'm going to pause and be back in just a minute. All right, here we are. So you can see the difference between now and when they were still wet. And this is another proof that blooms are very elusive. When you want them, sometimes it's hard to get them. When you don't want them, they show up. So let's just take a look at what happened. Right here, this is where I dropped a little water, and it's kind of a bloom there. It's not real beautiful. And then this is where, actually right here is where I added extra paint. So not so much excitement there. This one is the one that I dropped on more of the purple, and you can see a little bit here where it's a little dark, kind of fuzzy around the edges. And here we have a bloom right here. But the best one, the one that reacted the best, is this light green, and that's the one that I put just a drop of water. And you can see that because my brush was wetter than the paper, when I dropped water on it, it pushed the existing paint out of its way and created this bloom, cauliflower, run back, whatever you want to call it. So again, always unpredictable, because remember these had a lot more fun and interest to them. So and I suspect that what happened is I probably dropped on the paint or water while they were still a little bit too wet. If I would have waited for them to just lose a little more of their shine, we would have had more interesting results. So maybe in one of the future videos, I'll tell you how you can try to fix those if you have them and you don't want them. So you might see this come back one day, and I'm going to try and smooth them out. But anyway, don't forget, if you look at the description below, you will see that I have a link for you to a couple of free giveaways. One of them is a short video about controlling the amount of paint and water in your paintings. And the other one is a supply list that I have curated for the last 25 years with some clickable links in it for my favorite watercolor supplies. So thank you for watching. Tell a friend, share this, maybe give it a thumbs up. And if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe you'll subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Have a great day.